All right, let's get started. Deanne, if you can unmute yourself. Oh, you did.
I did.
Okay, thank you. All right, hello again, friends, and you are our friends. Welcome to a bittersweet edition of Family Affair. Thanks for joining. It's what can I say? It's been a fun journey, but we are closing it today. We're at the home stretch. We've thrown the ring in the crack of doom, left mortar. We've been on an epic journey, come to new heights of understanding and wisdom, and made a few friends along the way. I am your obstreperous, slightly mischievous, and long-suffering home inspector, Vito. And today, to help pull the curtain on this fun production is a person I am honored to call coworker and friend. She is a successful real estate agent, an amazing marketer, fantastic designer. She's got the patience of a Mother Teresa. She's kind as a kitten and sharp as a razor. I give to you the irrepressible Deanne Van Herens.
Hey guys, wow, that was awesome, Vito. Thank you. I just wanted to thank everyone for tuning in to our bittersweet last class. We are going to be taking a break for a couple weeks, and then we're going to try to start back up with some of our partners. So yes, we're taking a break, but we will be back. I just wanted to let everybody know that we strive to provide you value. We treat every client like family and inspect every home like it's our own. And, with the classes, if you've seen any of my posts or my videos, I always say the better you understand the inspection process, the better negotiation power you have, because now you have the knowledge, hopefully above another agent, that's going to help you get your offer accepted. So we're here to help you with that. We also have our 90-day guarantees and warranties. We are proud to offer those. And we also now provide sewer scope and thermal imaging with all of our home inspections. So with having said that, let's get this party started. Vito!
Thanks. Quick clarification, the sewer scope actually is an add-on. Thermal imaging comes standard with every full rock solid home inspection. And in addition, we offer mold. So today, and again, thank you for being here. We're going to go through the HVAC system. So it's going to be dry. It's going to be technical. I encourage engagement. I'm going to cut it short soon, so that way there's time for questions. But if you have anything relevant, put it in the chat. Deanne will interrupt me. And I'm at your service as usual. So sit back, strap in, grab yourselves a nice warm cup of tea. And all I ask is that you give us your heart. So let's start by screen sharing, and we'll go from there. What you're looking at, I hope you're looking at, is the INTERNACHI standards of practice as far as heating and cooling. Quickly, it's just a visual inspection only. So what are we doing? We're inspecting the heating system, describing the location of the thermostat for the heating system, the energy source, and the heating method. We will report as in need of correction anything that did not operate and if it was deemed inaccessible. There is a lot of what we're not required to do with a home inspection. Some of it's obvious, like in the interior of flues or chimneys. Even if I can get in there and look up and take a picture, they often turn and we can't really get a good look from top down or bottom up. Humidifiers, dehumidifiers, the electronic, the UV stuff, fuel tanks, buried things, concealed fuel supply systems. We're not calibrating or determining the uniformity, the flow, balance, distribution of the heating system. Ditto for the cooling system. That's more for, a specialist. Light or ignite pilot flames, that's a big one. Sometimes people aren't prepared and they wonder why we don't do it. It's dangerous. Activate heating, heat pump systems, or other heating systems when ambient temperatures or other circumstances are not conducive to safe operation or may damage the equipment. That's a big one for us in Florida because it's hot 90% of the year and we're working during the daytime. So if it's hot, we're not going to run the heat, but there's good news, and I will get to that shortly. Override electronic thermostats. That's pretty vague, but I can tell you when I get to a house, the first thing I do is turn down the thermostat. I want the AC on. It's hot. I want to make sure it works. Some of it's obvious, but some of it's not. Like we don't verify thermostat calibration or anything like that. And I've never been asked to. And we'll go on to cooling, and it's really the same thing. Use the normal operating controls, i.e. the thermostat. We will describe where the thermostat was and the cooling method. 99% of the time, it's a forced air. It's a condenser outside and air handler inside, regardless of whether or not the condenser has the heat pump certification or classification, excuse me. The refrigerant cycles cooling one way and it cycles the other way when it's heating. And really the not required to is the same thing as what was under heating. I'm going to jump over to, and what we're looking at here are the Florida standards of practice, which do supersede INTRNACHI's baseline, and it is the same exact thing. If anything, it's a little bit more specific on what we're not required to do, but it's simple. I mean, we go in, we turn it on. If it's hot out, we're running the AC, and if it's cold out, both times during the year, we're going to run the heat. And this is where it's good to make a distinction, because sometimes clients, they don't know, and some realtors don't know. Well, did you run the AC? Well, no. Are you coming back? Well, no, I don't have to, and here's why. Because it worked. Even if it was 60, 55 degrees outside and I turn it on, the refrigerant is cycling, right? So when I run it the other way, the refrigerant's going to cycle. You're going to get colder. You're going to get warm air. And if there's any red flags, you know, we're going to see them when we do the inspection, and I will show you what that looks like, because our very next thing is to jump in to a couple of home inspections, and I want to start with a good one first. So with this one, here's our descriptions at the top. The thermostat was located in the living room. The condenser outside was a 3-ton electric Goodman with a maximum fuse breaker rating of 35. We put the model and the serial numbers there, and it was built in 2015. The air handler was a match. It was a 3-ton electric Goodman built in 2015. The disclaimers, really it's the same thing we just went through. It's just so people understand what the expectation is. It's right there on the report. It's in the standards of practice that we post links to with every pre-inspection agreement that gets sent out a minute after a client books an inspection. Excuse me. But here's a couple things that is useful information. The condensers and air handlers, acceptable ranges for temperature testing is 12 to 20 degrees. Any differential outside of that range is considered to be suboptimal and should be evaluated by a technician. We do call it out. So when I take temperature picks at supply and return, if it's outside that range, I'm letting you know. It's not a catch-all, end-all, be-all. There are a dozen different factors that will go into that, some of them being what the insulation is like, what the temperature outside is like, and several other factors. How, if there's a radiant barrier that could throw off the readings too. But general rule of thumb, 12 to 20 degrees, 14, 15 being ideal, optimal. And the average lifespan of a condenser is 12 to 15 years. They have been known to last up to 20 years with annual maintenance. Regular maintenance will almost certainly extend the life of most of your home components. We want to make sure our clients know that. It's, you know, just because it works today doesn't mean you can let it run for 10 years without service. None of us would run our car, well, I might, 10,000 miles without getting an oil change. It's important to use that, a similar analogy when we're talking about homes components. And here's the first picture we take. It's usually just, this is what it looks like, an image of the condenser and the manufacturer's label. There it is, there it is. This will also link up to recall check. So if there's any recalls on any of the equipment, that'll come out in the report as well. It's rare in this instance. It's more for some of the other some of the other equipment from other systems like appliances, water heaters, things like that. I have not yet found a condenser come up on a recall. This one was really clean. It was good. There was nothing wrong with it. You can see that the AC going in, the air going in was at 70 degrees, and the air coming out was at 55 degrees. Yes, we're exceeding the scope a little bit by taking the test, but we do want to give some additional detail to our clients so that they know we did what we could when we were on site. Air handler was the same thing. It was in a closet. I mean, it looked pristine to me. And there's the image and the manufacturer's label. We even went up in the attic and scanned the ductwork visually and with a thermal camera. A lot of times that dark blue is the cold, and I'll be able to see leaks because it'll have like a big blue cloud around it, and you'll be able to know, and that'll give us an indication to go a little deeper. Again, we're exceeding the standards of practice there, but it could save our clients hundreds of dollars, sometimes up to $1,000 or so if there's a ductwork repairs that have to go into it. Thermostat, there it is. I pushed the button, it worked. I'll let them know if it didn't. I'll let them know where it is. But in this instance, you know, the system was functioning like it was intended to, and that's what we want. Unfortunately, not all home inspections kind of worked out that way. In this instance, we have dual systems. One of them was a 2002 set, air handler and condenser, and the other one was brand new. The air handlers were side by side up in the closet, and the condensers were side by side outside. And first thing we noticed that the condenser outside, the AC hood line isn't sealed. Why is that important? It's, you know, it's really not as far as the operation goes, but that's how rats and squirrels and stuff get in the attic. They go right up in there through the bottom, they go up to the top, in through the soffit. They're making nests, making noise, scaring people who aren't used to it. And you know, we let them know for just a few dollars of hardware cloth and a couple of screws, you can make sure that's never a problem again. Here's an image of the condenser and the manufacturer's label. The temperature tested at return and supply, and it was a 17-point differential, still okay. But I did notice it wasn't strapped to the slab, and not every concern needs a picture. It just needs some securing straps and some bolts and done. And that's important because if it gets jostled around, it could damage the refrigerant lines, and that can be an expensive repair, especially if it damages where it's running through the house. So we call it out. Easy fix is just to put a couple of straps down on it. This is the older unit. It was 18 years old. It was working, but it's 18 years old. Even if it died tomorrow, it still lived longer than anyone would have expected it to. So it's working for now. Run it into the ground or replace it. It's up to you, but just understand its age. Temperature tests were fine. They were 14 degrees. Now, here's where we start getting into it. Condensation on the air handler. Okay, maybe some is okay, but really it shouldn't be there. You don't want any water uncontained in the house at all, even in the garage. It's an indication that it's not running properly on the inside. It's overworking if it's putting out that much condensation. And truthfully, all that condensation should be on the inside, going to the drain, and then getting routed out of the house. Also, it could lead to rust on the unit, further deteriorating it, possible microbial growth. We all know, I'm not going to beat you to death with the mold speech. It's everywhere, it's all the time, but the insurance companies get a hold of it. And yeah, there are a few every once in a while who are really allergic and get sick. So you definitely want a specialist out there to take care of that. And this is the newer one. This was like right near it too. That one was okay, but you can see, and here we go with the older one, the microbial growth growing on it, mold, mildew, more condensation, and the old one did exceed. It's again 18 years old. Ductwork looked okay. It wasn't newer like the others, like the systems were, but it looked okay, and we scanned it with the thermal camera. And when we see some issues like this on the registers of the returns, it's not a big deal necessarily. But then again, if you've got, it could just be a cleaning issue. But then again, those vents, those grills have a little metal sleeve, and if it's not connected to the ductwork properly, it's kind of blowing attic dust and insulation out of it, and really should be fixed. Nobody wants that in the air. And the thermostats they worked. I pushed the button, they gave me cold air when I asked for them, so we know the systems are in place. All right, here's one where we weren't getting good temperatures, 78 and 68. That is marginal, and before I'm making that call, I'm looking at some other things. Was it at borderline temperature like we sometimes get at the end of winter and the beginning of spring, or even in winter, where it's just now warm enough where I can run the AC? I'm looking at all those things. In this case though, I can tell based on everything else I saw that this was a true representation. If anything, it was generous. So again, not strapped to slab, although this one did get a picture. Condenser's nearing the end of its life, and you caught me with a mistake. This was redundant, nearing the end of its useful life. Living proof that I can make mistakes regularly. So I apologize for that. Normally that comes out in proofing, and I remove the one that we don't need. But here's what the condenser looked like. It was old. It was 26 years old. I couldn't even believe it was working at all. But there you go. Sometimes they do. This is from the air handler on the inside, and it was rough looking. It was a sideways mounted up in the attic. It was full of rust. It was leaking visible water. The drain pans weren't routed properly. And then it was ready to go. Here you go. Primary and secondary condensate lines were merged. I know if anyone's looked at an air handler, you know those white pipes come out of the air handler, but the ones that have a drain pan under it, that drain pan needs to have a line too. In case the first one fails, it protects there from being water damage. In this case, they merged the primary and the secondary, which makes the whole thing redundant. Although I understand why somebody would. It makes sense if you're not thinking about it. But you know what? It's an easy fix. Cut this one, route it right next to the other one, dump them both outside. It was in the garage. We call rust out as a moderate concern and not a major concern, simply because, you know what, it's not the end of the world. But if you don't do anything about it, rust doesn't get better on its own. It always gets worse. So eventually put it on your to-do list. And again, this one was a little younger, but it was still, I think, like 18 years old here too. Ductwork looked fine for what we could see, and there you go. There's your thermostat. I always thought it was interesting that this would get the brand new, beautiful, high-tech thermostat on a 26-year-old system, but okay. And here's the last one I picked for us to look at today. A 2006 system, 14 years old, nearing the end of its useful life, and it wasn't cooling properly. So we had 79 and 73. This was only a 6-degree differential. So
here are some results from a search.
No, the phone doesn't listen to me at all. Sorry about that. So we had poor temperature rating. Here's a neat one. Okay, so when you look at the maximum fuse rating, this was the maximum fuse rating on this one was 20 amps. But you have a 60 amp and a 50 amp breaker. Now the 60 is just a disconnect. I'm not too concerned about it. What I'm really concerned about is what breaker did they use at the electrical panel. And this one, it far exceeded the 20 amp that the condenser was rated for. That's important because if there's ever a power surge, the condenser is only rated to handle X amount of power, right? So if there's ever a surge, I need that breaker to trip. Otherwise, more power is going through the AC condenser than it can handle, and it will damage it. But some AC guys like to do that on purpose, simply because they don't want it tripping. They think the manufacturers are far too stringent on their, they know better. So I get it. This one though, I think it was just old and it was replaced without ever checking the breaker. And I just threw that picture in there so they would see where the condenser was right there and right there. Again, not strapped to slab. The AC hood line was unsealed. The condensate line from the air handler was draining right up against the house. We do want to get that extended away. Just water at the foundation, you never like it. And the insulation was a bit damaged. It could affect efficiency. It wasn't real big. Wasn't a lot of it there, but still, we're calling it out. Let them get it serviced. And it was old. Although I know I make this joke a lot, but I am getting at an age now where I don't like calling anything out for being old. I'm just now, no way. I don't like it. And lastly, the ductwork. So I wanted to get through this a little bit quickly. I wanted to leave some time for questions. I know somebody's got questions. I want to hear good questions. I'm personally going to discount service off the best question today. So please, let's get some engagement.
We have a question. Do you want it now or later?
I love questions. Give me the questions.
Okay. What is the most common problem found during these types of inspections? Also, what is the one or two things owners can do to properly maintain the overall system?
Those are great questions. So and I'll address that in two parts. The first, it's not that I always see the same problem with the ACs so much as I always see them for the same reasons, and it's deferred maintenance. I have an AC, I turn it runs automatically, and I don't think about it until there's a problem, right? So the best thing I would say is routine maintenance. Find a guy you trust, reach out to your home inspector, because we likely have somebody that we trust, whether it's for the company or us individually. I have a guy that, even though we don't use him for the company, he's my go-to, and he's just busy all the time, so I share him with good clients, and get that thing serviced once in a while. That's really the best thing I could say. Actually, that is the one or two things owners can do to properly maintain their overall system, is get it serviced. I mentioned earlier in the talk about not needing to test the heating because the way the refrigerant cycles back and forth. It doesn't mean that the one time of the year you turn on the heating, it's not going to smell like burnt lint for 10 minutes, and then it still needs, a regular checkup. But I hope that answered you.
And let's see, does a condenser and the air handler need to match?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. I'm taking $50 off your next client's inspection with us, and I'll come out and do it personally.
That is Marion.
Marion, thank you. Okay, so simplest answer, yes. However, each manufacturer has this big old list of manufacturing match combinations, right? And your inspector can't know that. But what we can do is call it out when they don't match. The bigger issue is the refrigerant. So they change the refrigerants every so often. If I have a 2005 condenser and a 2015 air handler, and they're different brands, you know, they may not be using the same refrigerant because the refrigerant changed to 410A later. That doesn't, hold on, I just got a, oh, it's just a 10-minute. No, we're fine. Okay, we're fine. Sorry. But yeah, the refrigerant changes every so often. If it's not the same refrigerant, it could damage the unit. Now I'm really going to take it a step deeper. And in my mind, yeah, but the AC, in this example, the AC has been working since, 2005. So why are they making us call it out? I'll call it out. A phone call's free. Call an AC guy. He'll be happy to tell you, you know what, you should be fine or not. But some of these things that we're trained as inspectors don't always necessarily match up with what we see in the field. I hope that helps. Ready Now has a question. Do I have an AC company that I recommend for service? I have a contractor, and I am happy to share his information with you. He's awesome. I knew him 15 years ago when he was just an AC guy, and now he has a full contractor company. But like all good contractors, it's hard to, they're busy. So it's hard to get in with them. But once you're in, man, the guy's fantastic. I'm going to type my email address in the chat. And anyone that wants to try it, I can make an introduction. But I mean, I've known him for 15 years, and he's busy with me sometimes too. I'm pretty sure the office has somebody that that we keep, but they rotate too, because you know what, guys get busy, and who was really good with everybody last year isn't necessarily really good with everybody this year. That's just, my observations. And by the way, please feel free to keep my email address. Use me as a resource. In addition to having people call and request me to do their inspections, I've had realtors call me. I had a realtor who I knew from doing these weekly Zoom calls call me yesterday. She had a client who was really wanting a remediated sinkhole property, and she remembered that I live on one and wanted to know some particulars. I personally bought one. I went looking for one, got a great deal. It's guaranteed for life. It's as secure on its foundations as those hotels with the big 60-foot pilings right on the beach. I'm happy. Do we have any other questions? Is there anything I can do to help you guys?
There's no other questions in the chat box right now. Unless people want to just unmute and ask. There's only like 6 minutes left.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
I have a question.
Sure. Hi, Barbara.
Hi. You had said with the drain, if you have the pan and having a drain besides, and the thing is I'm thinking of my own AC, is that I have the drain comes out of the machine. Actually, when I was on vacation, my pan overflowed and my house flooded, and my ceiling came down, which I'm 9 months still in a temporary housing because of the insurance.
No.
Yeah, so anyway, but my thing is that my AC, I've had it serviced so we could get it back since they put the ceilings back up. But what had happened was the trip valve on the pan didn't work, and that's to shut off the unit. But I'm wondering, should I have a drain installed in that pan now, just as a safety precaution?
Absolutely. In fact, it's required.
Oh,
Well,
he
required.
might have done that. I haven't been up in the attic, so he could have done that too, but
So the best, every drain pan comes with a valve, a plug, just like a little PVC hole through the metal on the side. The pan is supposed to be tilted slightly, just slightly, and then that plug fitted with a PVC line, and that runs parallel to the condensate, the air handler's condensate line, so you have two running side by side going down. That way, if there's ever a problem with the air handler and it overflows or leaks, the drain pan can now drain to the exterior as well. It's supposed to be, now do I see it? 9 times out of 10, I don't, and I call it out when I don't, if they're in an attic or in a garage or lifted up high, or so to speak. But you know what? It should be, yeah.
okay. See, because my outside unit's a ream and it's 34 years old.
God bless you.
And my inside unit, I did have that replaced, but my outside was a 3-ton. I put a 3.5-ton inside, and it's very economical running.
So the tonnage, now the tonnage, sorry, go ahead, forgive me.
Oh, well, I was going to say is that the drain, because this is where it goes like two-thirds across my roof to the other side of my house is where it is. From where from where the inside unit is in my attic. So there's one line that goes out. So you're saying you would have to put another line parallel to that?
Not necessarily, as long as the secondary system, the drain has a drain, the drain pan has a drain that's routed to the exterior. It could go to the nearest soffit. It could go straight across to the nearest soffit and come down the side of the house. It's really low impact as far as installation.
I mean,
now,
I every 6 months pour Clorox down that to make sure it stays cleaned out. But you could put that. I mean, it's not against the code to put a drain from the pan into that.
We never use the C word. Home inspectors never use the C word.
Okay.
we're listen, when I'm looking at a house, think of this. Even though I have experience and I've been doing this for several years, and they gave me the certified master inspector little button and coffee cup, I am just like you. My hands are behind my back. I'm only going on what I can visibly see. I'm not interested in the codes or the installation of it or any of that stuff. I'm looking for some common red flags that might tell me your buyer might need to talk to a specialist about this. And that's in essence what we do now as inspectors. We know how to do it methodically. We know how to cover everything that we can as far as the home inspection goes. But when we start getting technical, I have an opinion, but the smartest opinion I can have is going to be to have you ask you to have that talk with your AC guy. What about a drain pan line? Why isn't that routed outside? If it were routed, if it had been connected, would I have had this problem, so to speak? And interestingly enough, real quick on the drain cleaning, not everybody can reach a hose to, instead of pouring down bleach, pressure works better. So think of a garden hose. Boom. Pressure would blow it out, hot chew, because what you're getting is biomass. I used to do commercial pest control, and I made tons of money going in and cleaning out fruit fly problems at restaurants. Same problem, their drain lines from the little hand sinks and the bar sinks would get clogged up just like the AC lines. Bleach will not be effective as like something thicker and microbial in nature. So
1 minute.
Thank you, Deanne. But there are better products than bleach, and I would research that where I use.
Yeah.
Guys,
what were you
let me
going to
just
say
take a
about the
minute.
tonnage? You were going to make a comment about the tonnage?
The tonnage is based on square footage and some other factors. The SEER rating is your efficiency.
Yeah.
To be right. So guys, let me just take a minute to say thank you. It has been really educational for me. I'm out in the field. I'm not fit for polite society, but having an opportunity to sit here and deliver information and answer questions and finally feel useful for once, you know,
Oh, we
that's
love
been,
you, Vito.
that's been a
Thank you
memory.
so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
You
you.
have my email or call the office. I'm at your service. Thanks again. And as always, happy closing.